class, my name is Jacqueline Bassey, and today I'm going to be talking to you about the United States airline industry. So on our agenda today, we will be talking about a summary of the case analysis, the competitive force analysis that I performed. We'll talk about strategic groups within the airline industry, the cyclical economic performance within the industry, and then some future strategies that the airline can utilize, as well as some ethical and social responsibilities that were mentioned in the case. So for a quick summary about the case, as mentioned before, my case talked about the United States airline industry. So this has been an industry that's been growing for over 100 years. It started in 1914. Because there are many airlines, there's a lot of competition within this industry, which is why competitors are seeking the competitive advantage, and why the competitive force analysis that I'll be talking about in the next few minutes is a perfect way to analyze this industry. The case also talks about the fact that many airlines had to file for bankruptcy and merge due to the economic downfall in the early 2000s. So let's talk about the major analysis that I performed for this case study, which has to do with Porter's 5 forces, the competitive forces. And this basically analyzes and helps companies understand what kind of competition they're up against and what kind of environment is out there within their industry, and helps them better understand the environment. So the first force is competitive rivalry. And this is a lot higher for airlines because there's so many airlines, and consumers typically only choose one airline when they fly. And they usually fly the same airline and they stick it as their regular type airline. So because of this, airlines have to stay on top of their game, and they're constantly competing to have that competitive advantage. So for example, this is a small one, but it's a good strategy that JetBlue uses. They are notorious for their unlimited snacks that they serve on the planes. You can go to the store and buy your own bag of Cheez-Its, but because you're flying JetBlue, you know you're going to get free snacks, and that's just a little perk that their passengers are excited about when they board the plane. So it gives them a little bit of a competitive advantage, even though small. So next we'll talk about the supplier power, which is also pretty high in the industry. So airlines are able to make a profit while keeping their ticket price low. These airlines are going to be most successful. And I think that the easiest way to describe this would be for airlines to sell ticket prices just above their break-even point. So because of value airlines such as Frontier or Spirit, and because of websites like Expedia, TripAdvisor, Travelocity, where you can compare different airline prices for the same dates, same location, people are constantly looking for the lowest price in airline tickets. Other airlines, they have to keep their prices low enough to still be competitive, but they can't lower it so much that they're going to reduce maintenance costs, which could potentially cause havoc and be dangerous. And I'll talk about that more in the ethical slides towards the end of the presentation. So the next force is going to be threat of new entry. So this is actually not a major risk for the airline industry, and that's simply because there is already so much competition within the industry, and there's years worth of rapport that's been built with their guests and their passengers, that popular airlines such as Delta, JetBlue, newer airlines would have to take years to compete with these airlines and to become popular. But by the time that they became popular, potentially, they probably already have gone bankrupt because nobody is flying these airplanes because they're already flying JetBlue. And other barriers of entry could include costs or government regulations. That's a big one because, again, you do have many Americans and people from all over the world. It's their safety on the line when it comes to the airline industry, so it's not to be taken lightly. So in terms of strategic groups, the airline industry, they definitely have this. So the main strategic group that we can easily identify when it comes to airlines is value versus luxury airlines. So when I say value, I do mean more of the Frontier or Spirit. And when I say luxury, I'm classifying that as Delta, American, JetBlue, so on. JetBlue, they can be considered somewhere in the middle between value and luxury, though, because I guess in some circumstances, because they do have low ticket prices. But for the sake of this analysis, I'm going to classify them as luxury because they do have excellent service. They have those snacks. You can choose your own seat, things along the lines of that. So the value group, their strategy is to keep prices as low as possible, like under $100 round trip. But they don't really offer many amenities or services on the plane. So the planes are going to be as basic as they get. It's going to be small seats, no televisions, no snacks, so on. And then the luxury airlines, they offer all of those services, but their prices are going to be much higher. But you're getting what you paid for in that sense. And each strategy is targeted at different groups based on class and age. And it's important to remember too, there's no right or wrong strategy that these airlines are using. I've flown Frontier, I've flown Delta, I've flown JetBlue. It really depends on what you're looking for in the trip. If you're looking for that lower price, or if you're looking for a very luxurious vacation and you have a couple extra $100 to spend on the free snacks at JetBlue. Not that it's going to be a couple extra $100, but so the cyclical environmental economic performance. Let's talk about that. So as I mentioned before, the industry has had its ups and downs when it comes to their economic performance. And this has to do with two reasons. The first reason is because of the economy. So when the economy is poor, people, they don't typically travel as much for fun. They're not going to plan that family vacation. So there's not a great demand of flying during these times. But the second is more of the main reason that I would say is the main reason, which is that it has to do with supply and demand. So during peak times, such as summer vacation, the winter holidays, Thanksgiving, New Year's, Christmas, during these times, the demand for airline tickets is much higher. So people are willing to pay the premium prices to get just any airline ticket as long as they can get home for the holidays or they can get to Disney World. They're going to pay for those tickets. As opposed to the off-peak times, such as maybe October, September, back to school, April, May, when people aren't traveling as much. So during these off-peak times, airlines are able to drop their prices. So, and this is an incentive. So maybe people who weren't planning on going on a trip in April, maybe they see, oh, round trip for JetBlue from New York to Orlando is $120. Yeah, I'll buy a ticket. I'll go to Orlando for a round trip for $120. And it's kind of like an incentive to persuade them into booking a vacation and getting that good deal. So this brings us to some future strategies that airlines should utilize going forward and moving into this future of the competitive pricing model and strategies. And this could potentially help them, I guess, avoid bankruptcy in times of economic hardships as well. So, piggybacking off of what I said about the peak versus off-peak season, I think that the airlines, I think that they've adopted the airlines that have adopted the off-peak deals mentality year-round, if they do this, they would have a positive turnout with their, a positive reaction with their passengers and their customers. Even if it's like a last-minute ticket promotion, as opposed to permanently lowering those prices, people will think that they're getting the best deal because they saw a flash sale for a round trip for $120 for Thanksgiving. Maybe they saw this for Thanksgiving and they thought they were getting a deal. So that gives them a competitive advantage over flying maybe Southwest or Delta or whatever the price was, maybe around the $350 to $400 range. They're getting half off tickets. And they're taking Delta's customers. So customers do think they're getting a great deal. And then another example, I guess JetBlue already does this. They have a Twitter account where it's called JetBlue Cheaps, and they'll tweet out flash deals like last minute ticket deal. Get a one-way ticket from JFK to Orlando for $40. So they're thinking they're getting this great deal when in reality they'll probably have to pay full price on the way back to go JetBlue. So they're getting that deal on the way there, but they're still paying a full ticket price that they wouldn't have had before. And the plane was going to leave whether or not this one passenger was on the plane on the $40 trip. So JetBlue basically made an extra $40 without adding any additional cost to them to carry that extra body down to Florida. So finally, let's touch upon the ethical and social responsibilities within the case study, which is what I was lightly touching upon before. So customers have to have a mutual form of trust with the airline, and that's important because if the airline messes up, this can be life-threatening for many people. The customer also needs to know that they're getting the best deals possible without having to sacrifice their safety of those costs. So if an airline has to reduce a maintenance cost or a repair cost in order to stay in competition with maybe if JetBlue was trying to compete with Frontier, but they had to reduce their maintenance costs, that is being extremely reckless on the airline, and it's unethical, it's not socially responsible of the company, and it can potentially risk thousands of people's lives. So that concludes my presentation. I hope I added value to your knowledge about the airline industry, and I really look forward to watching everybody else's presentations. Thank you.